Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Geek Dhaba. Today, we are talking about the episode.
Yes.
We are delaying our release just so we can talk about this movie, and it's one that we're all excited to talk about. At least most of us are. It is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and quite frankly, I am looking forward to this discussion. What do you all think going in? Let's start with.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yes, finally.
I mean, the thing is, the fact is, it's gonna be interesting because the fact that not all of us are in the same page is gonna be interesting. That's why, and that's what makes for a good discussion. So it's a good thing that there are people who are not exactly on the same page as us.
Wink, wink.
Me?
I'm definitely looking forward to the reactions.
Oh Lord, the friendships will be broken today. Well, I'm just kidding. No, there's no worries. I'll just beat you to death, and that's all there is gonna be to it.
No. No friendships will be broken. We're on contract.
Ah, shit! Damn it!
Okay
Should have
then.
read it.
With that out of the way, let's get into the Geek Dhaba. And now let's talk about the movie. We've discussed a talking order and a format for how we're going to be discussing this movie. So I'm just going to hand the platform to our first speaker to give his initial reaction to the movie and his thoughts. So Suhaib, take it away.
This movie, man. I mean, I couldn't watch it like in one go because I have kids. I watched it in 2 parts, basically, the first 3 chapters and then the last 3 chapters. But man, oh man, I saw the first 6 chapters before sleeping, and I had to, take off for the next 3 chapters because I couldn't sleep the entire night thinking about what's going to happen next. This film was epic. This was amazingly done. I mean, okay, before I start to think as I'm over the pros, I'll just mention some of the cons that I thought. Number 1, the creepy Flash interest. Number 2, and my cons are really very nitpicky stuff. But number 2, the Wonder Woman did not need to blow up the building to beat the last bad guy. She could have just straight punch him and that would have. And number 3, spoilers. Spoiler alert, everybody, you should not be watching if you're not seen this movie. Nightmare scene in epilogue kind of didn't work for me in the epilogue. I think it should have been a part of the movie beforehand. It did not work for me in the epilogue. And the biggest con of this movie, is why is there no Snyderverse? I mean, come on. Like after this movie, why is there no Snyderverse? This movie has built up an entire universe. After Justice League, I'll call it Justice League throughout this podcast, so bear with me. After Justice League, I wanted the DCU day because as per our DCU tier list, I've said it before, I hate that movie. And after this, and I said it in that podcast, I couldn't hate it even more. After this movie, I do hate it more. I mean, this movie was amazing. It redeemed the characters. It redeemed the bloody villain. I mean, come on. Steppenwolf was a great villain. He had motivations. He had an arc. He had a proper set of, scenes where he was building up as a villain. And that was absolutely nothing there in the previous one. Cyborg was truly the heart of the film. He was there. He was done brilliantly. Flash was amazing. So for that one scene, we finally got, Martian Manhunter. Although the the involvement obviously is less. It's more of an idea that he will be in the future movies. But yeah, that was very exciting to finally see him, and he looked so good. Um, then obviously there's Tux. Oh man, that dark side. I mean, obviously the Uxas in the first scene, in the history arc scene, and then dark side later on in that final scene of Ray Porter's voice. When he said, ready the armadas, I had like goosebumps all over my arm. It's like, what is even happening? How am I getting these feelings? And and the details of this movie is what makes it great for me. I mean, the arcs I've already mentioned. Like everybody has a proper arc. Not Batman, not a lot. I mean, when Batman and Wonder Woman, not so much as the smaller characters who did not have a proper movie to build them up before this. So they got like proper arcs in this movie, right? Batman, you can say Batman had a BVS before it. Wonder Woman had a Wonder Woman before it to build her. Superman had Man of Steel to build him. So there was some beautiful moments. Other than that, the details of Atlantean versus Amazonians battle, the dialogue between uh, uh, Diana and Arthur, their discussions of how to bring back Superman, everything. This made so much sense, and the final fight that made so much sense. And thank God there were no stupid quips between like Superman saying, I know you don't bring back because you like me, and Batman, I know, no. I mean, what? Man, come on. This was amazing. Their interactions were amazing. This was brilliantly done. And thank you, Zack Snyder. Thank you so much for this movie. You really held your end of the bargain, and you made us very happy. I think that's all I will say. Take it up.
Very well. Junaid, you're up.
Okay, thank you very much for the detailed introduction and the initial thoughts. Okay, I there are mixed opinions. I know you're watching very close to the screen. You want to just come into my screen, but anyways, yeah, this was not expected. The thing which I was expecting, it was much greater than that. Yeah, I said it. Okay, and I might change the grade later on from the reason why.
Dude, look at you. Eating your words, aren't you? I joke.
All right. So I'm glad they gave Cyborg a proper story and Flash the proper timing which he deserved, other than just Superman, Wonder Woman, because the Whedon one just was based on these two, and Batman, of course, because there has to be Batman. Uh, Other than that, I like the fact that they brought Darkseid into it because the last movie, Steppenwolf, the last fight scene, it didn't really make any sense to me to end a movie at that point. Even though it was the first movie and I gave it an A because people were combined and united, but this really was a long movie, but I didn't get bored on it. So I think that's what I will say. Now I can just hand it to Amar.
Okay, then. Let me get my thoughts in as much as possible because I have a lot to say. Okay, where do I begin? Okay, the intro way better than what we had in the beginning. Okay, I love to see Superman's death being a cause of the mother boxes, being the reason they open up, like crack and open up, call Steppenwolf. I love that more than they suddenly just opening out of nowhere. And the first thing we see is the parademons. Like if they were opening up and Steppenwolf there was initially coming to Earth, then how was the parademons there? That was like a lot of plot holes in just that alone. And thank God that CGI mustache Cavill was gone, because that was terrible. Now,
Finally.
yes, okay, that beginning, absolutely loved it. That is classic Snyder. Like he did that in Watchmen, he did that in BVS a little bit, and it's absolutely incredible. That it's a great way to build up the start of a movie. So that is one big plus so far. And another plus that I have is that we got more Batman. Because in original Justice League, we got mostly Bruce Wayne than we did Batman, and that was not really great. But we got more Batman over here, and I actually like that. I'm a huge Batman fan, and like I said, like I mentioned before in our tier list episode, that I love the Affleck costume. Exactly, it's one of the best, if not the best, costume in cinema. Followed only by Michael Keaton. We'll have that discussion later.
We'll probably make a podcast episode just rating
Second
the
episode
suits
right
or
there.
something. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's a good
definitely.
idea.
Definitely, we'll put a pin on that. What else do we have here? Okay, a lot of scenes were added. Like clearly, an hour and a half worth of details, even more, were added over here. And a lot of, I'm not gonna say that they all were perfect, because honestly, not all of them were perfect scenes, but a lot of them added some nice touches. Is it the same movie? Not entirely. Is it an amazing movie? Yes. Is it perfect? No. It may have some gripes. I have some problems with it. Very minor. Quips, they're still there. The one quip that I'm glad was removed from this new one is that when Batman says something is definitely bleeding.
Oh God.
That was gone. Amy Adams saying "you smell good" to Superman, that's gone. The whole Aquaman and Batman being like, "Oh, you're a guy in a bat suit. I can dig it. It's only temporary." The conversation that is gone. I am happy. The fight scene when Superman was brought back to life. There was only one minor change to the whole thing, and that didn't change the whole fight, but it did add a nice touch. And the best scene in that entire fight scene is whole this Flash, running, and then Superman being able to catch up with him. Goosebumps. No matter how many times you see it, no matter which version you see, that is awesome. Again, we mentioned this in the tier list episode. Snyder knows how to make fight scenes. He is brilliant at directing action, especially comic book action. He knows how to do the shots properly. Oh, one more thing I remembered that was removed that I'm glad. Flash saves a truck full of a family from the explosions and parademons. Superman has this building over his head flying away. That was comedic.
Which was very comedic, actually, honestly.
Yeah, like would I be okay if it was still there? Not entirely. Would I be okay? Do I think it's funny? Yes, but I'm glad it's gone. Okay, yeah. Then I would like to point out one more thing that Sohaib said. Omer and I actually had a discussion about this, about the Snyder Cut, literally after watching it, and I said the same thing, that the nightmare scene should have been in between, not an epilogue. Because it kind of ruins the whole what's the word I'm looking for? Momentum. It ruins this whole momentum that we have going here. Like the world's been saved, and suddenly you're seeing a nightmare. You're building up a Snyderverse for instead of doing like Darkseid being Thanos and having an end game kind of thing like Avengers did. You're focusing more of an injustice storyline, which is amazing. Which is something I absolutely welcome. You're mixing in injustice with crisis, like we saw in that little scene where Clark is holding a skeleton in his hand. We all know that's Batman. That could be either Batman, it could be Lois Lane.
That's actually Lois. That's
Yeah.
actually Lois. That's confirmed to be Lois.
It is confirmed to be Lois.
That's how.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Because actually, there is that scene in Crisis where the skeleton in his hand is actually Batman, and then he goes berserk with that. Same storyline. So I did mix the two up. But either way, that process, excellent touch.
Yeah, it's more to do like how Flash gives this key information to Bruce Wayne in the nightmare sequence in Batman v Superman, that Lois Lane is the key. So if you connect those dots, if Lois isn't there, then Superman goes berserk, because Lois is Superman's anchor to humanity.
Flash was wearing the same suit that he was in BVS.
Exactly. Now, speaking of Barry Allen, that entire time travel scene, ooh, that was so good. That was so good. If part six were to make anything, make it worth it to watch the Snyder Cut, that entire scene alone was amazing for me. I absolutely loved it. What else do I want to say? Build up is much better. I do have one more gripe, and it's a very minor one, is that they're very heavily focused on Lois Lane a little bit. I mean, I get that. Okay, yeah, you mentioned in the beginning that, oh yeah, Lois Lane is the key, and she was kind of like the key to keeping Superman sane. But I mean, come on. I mean, like
It's kind of like the whole notion of, that he recognizes that one person who means the world to him. I mean, if you go back to BVS, she was my world and you took her from me. So it's kind of revolving around the same trope. Like, she is the one person who can probably bring him back from anything, any sort of madness, if you will. So I would say,
Then-
yeah, I do agree. There was a focus on Lois. Like, without even showing her, there was a lot of emphasis on her. But again,
Mhm.
it's not for the wrong reasons, I would say.
No, I'm not saying it's for the wrong reason. It was just very. I felt like it was just trying to prolong the time.
Yeah, I could go with that. Yes, I could work with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is my problem. But for the most part, yeah, overall, it's an absolute amazing build up to the movie, and that is all that from my side. Asad, take it away.
Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of things, of course, you want to talk about, but the key points that stuck out for me was how everybody was more logical. Like, they had a thought process associated to them. Even Flash, even though he's a kid, but he displayed, like, there is a certain smartness to him. I mean, he's not just this goofy kid, but he does have a sort of a smartness to him, like a logical buildup of things that, okay, A goes to B, B goes to C. It's not haywire, weird quips about Pet Cemetery or something of the sort. He is the one who actually says, like, guys, we have to try. I mean, what do we have to lose? We're going to die anyways. If this thing becomes the Unity, we're going to die anyway. So what do we have to lose? So it's kind of like that. Second thing I wanted to talk about is Steppenwolf. I mean, first of all, of course, the CGI of Steppenwolf was just insane. His armor was beautiful. Although I had my reservations at first when I first saw the original design for Steppenwolf that was intended, like the whole monstrous thing that we got. I had my reservations because I was kind of used to the CGI of Justice League. I was like, okay, it might work. But of course, I hadn't seen the new one. So when I saw the new one in action and I heard Siren Hind's voice, it just works perfectly. Like this, he is the emotionless yet at the same time emotional villain, if you think about it, because he has this story every time he talks to Desaad and the way he kneels down. He's just a guy who wants to go home and wants to redeem himself. That, yeah, just let me be home, let me be by his side again, because he definitely regrets whatever he did. And on that note, I'm just gonna guess, because of course we've got some comic buffs here. So what I'm guessing is that probably, if you all remember, Uxas killed his brother to get the Omega Sanction, and that's how he becomes Darkseid. Probably, I'm just guessing that, Uxas versus his brother was going down. Steppenwolf allied himself with his brother and got himself into a nasty position because, of course, Uxas becomes Darkseid. And, of course, Darkseid will be like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to kill you. I am merciful, whatever. But, yeah, you're going to go around conquer worlds for me and search for the anti-life equation. So in this way, he has this really solid pawn at his hand who will do anything to get his validation back. So it was that thing. And another thing that was really, really, I would say emotional, like the way they build up to the conclusion that, yeah, the mother box can bring back Superman. Like how it starts off with where the mother box was, what does it do? And then, of course, the whole example with the house on fire. And then, of course, everybody has this moment of silence which Flash says, like, I know everybody's thinking the same thing, but who's going to say it? And nobody says it. But Cyborg just projects an image of Superman taking flight, and it gave me goosebumps. As a Superman fan, as a Superman cosplayer, this gave me goosebumps of my life. Like the best scene is not by words, it's by how it made you feel. And the Man of Steel score kicks in right there. And I was like, oh, damn, this is insane. My last point, of course, a majority has been covered by you guys as well. And my last point was the cons, of course. First one would be the choir OST that Wonder Woman had every time she started fighting. It was good at first. When I first started, I was like, okay, wow, this is nice. Junkie XL, you did really good. But then it just keeps on going. And I'm like, I get it, but I would like Wonder Woman's theme itself, like the original one that was there. I would have liked that because it does kick in when she starts, battling Steppenwolf, and it was epic. But every time the camera focuses on her, the choir just goes on at the background. I'm like, not working for me. Similarly, I do agree with the nightmare scene. Although it was epic, it really centered that Jared Leto's Joker is capable of doing more. But if it was, sort of pieced together with the vision that Cyborg has, you would be able to draw a lot of things in there. Of course, I understand it's Bruce Wayne's nightmare versus, of course, just the nightmare scene. Like it's an Elseworld story that could have been, but we are not sure. So the con that I was going to talk about is basically how Arthur Curry has this really high disregard for pretty much everything, and then all of a sudden he has this change of heart. I would say. I mean, it was not much of a con, but it's kind of like Aquaman has this really sudden turn of heart. I'm like, okay, fine. He did witness somebody lose his father, and then all of a sudden he's like grown soft or caring. I would say, but again, it's just me nitpicking. So yeah, I think I seriously enjoyed the experience that I had. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Like to Amar's point, it wasn't perfect. It had its errors. It had its continuity issues as well, a little bit. But then again, it's more like we forgave the Mandalorian for the crappy CGI of Luke Skywalker. Why? Because we enjoyed it. It's the same case here. The pros outweigh the cons. So yeah,
The biggest con, Mira.
Mira. We all hate her with a passion. I have literally put the name there in TSF's website, like things I hate: spinach, Amber Heard, and Bollywood. I hate it. But yeah, there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's a pre-shot footage, so there's nothing you can do to,
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe somebody.
they even messed it up. Even the short footage, they messed it up with the British
Yeah,
accent. Just saying.
with the British, it was weird. It was I wouldn't say it was I mean, it was weird in the sense like, okay, maybe Atlanteans do have British accents. I guess who knows? They did sink off
No, the
like
ocean
somewhere.
ocean is all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, they might have just some Atlantean guy who has a really thick Russian accent or Indian accent, even just
Or maybe, or
on
maybe
the
lawsuit,
side.
winning lawsuit.
Atalanta.
Atlantis. So now over to you, Mayor. Now,
Nope. Hold
let's
on.
hear it,
Omer.
Mayor.
Omer's later. Kanza, you're up.
Omer plus.
Oh, okay, Kanza.
God,
Okay,
because
there
I
we
know
go.
Umair is planning to throw me under the bus because of this. Mostly because of the fact that I agree with him and, well, honestly, this movie was not what I was expecting. I mean, especially with the hype that the trailer had created, especially with how everybody had been raving around about it, and especially with its previous movies, I thought that it could have been a lot better. I mean, the first thing is the background music that Wonder Woman was using the entire time. First two times I got goosebumps. After that, I was like, can you please play something else or nothing at all? Because it's getting overrated at this point. After that, it was just, I was expecting the first fight scene that we saw to be at least somewhat different. I mean, it showed exactly the same thing we saw in Justice League, and it was just like watching the same movie all over again with separate scenes. I can just see Shoaib shaking his head. No, why are you saying this? But I don't know. I was expecting a lot more, and especially considering the fact that we were told that Justice League used 10% of his cuts,
It was
Snyder's
more.
cuts in the movie. But I don't know, it felt like a lot of his were the same things as before. Baki, iske alawa, I mean, honestly, I did not see Superman being the same way he was after he came back to life. I mean, I'm glad they gave us more of an explanation over the boxes, but this was not the Superman we saw in BVS or any of the other movies, and it just gave a very different personality. But I am glad about the fact that we got to see Cyborg's past. We got to see him become a quarterback. Got to see him go through the accident, what his family went through, and that we got a lot more details. The only part I did not like was the fact that Cyborg was creeping on that waitress and watching her entire life happen through the cameras and then just depositing the money in his account. I mean, as somebody that has dealt with this, it was not fun to watch. And I'm glad we got to see at least some dark side in this movie, because in Justice League we weren't given a lot of explanation. We did not get to see a lot of the background about why he was doing what he was doing. And Stephen Fultz, even, I mean, I'm glad we got more of a explanation about why he was doing what he was doing. We got a proper arc for that guy, because like we didn't get enough of him in the first movie. We didn't get to see them explaining what they were doing and why they were doing that. We just got to see a couple of fight actions, and then we got to see some stupid, cringy conversations about what was going to happen. That is all I can say, honestly.
Amir, you're up.
Mayor, you're up.
Oh boy, I feel like a lamb coming to the slaughter talking about this movie. To appease.
Before you begin, I just want to let you know that I'm literally next door.
I have way lot of things to speak in the chapter, so you're not alone, Omer.
I'm glad at least when we came into this debate, I was thinking that I would only be me and Kanza against four of you, but I'm glad to see that it's at least split half and half. Um, I'm going to start by appeasing you guys a little bit by telling you some of the things that I enjoyed.
Good tactic, I would say. Buffer.
Soften the blow.
All right, so let's get into it. Martian Manhunter, loved seeing him. Would have preferred to see him as a part of the team going into the movie, but obviously we
I
can't
agree.
have that. We can't have that. I would have preferred a full 7-member team up as Justice League has been in the past. It's mostly been 7 members in the start, and I would have loved to see that. But obviously, I can't fault Zach for having 6. It's just practical to manage 6 characters over 7, especially when you're starting off.
Plus, it would have gone way over 4 hours.
Exactly. The exploring Cyborgs history, exploring Cyborgs past, everything that we saw about Cyborg, I didn't hate any of it. I loved all of it. The one thing that I didn't like about Cyborg, I will get to when I discuss my things that I wasn't happy with. Um, Steppenwolf, very well written. I feel like the design was a bit of an overkill, but that's obviously just my personal opinion. That doesn't have any bearing on how I feel about Steppenwolf's story arc in this movie. I loved it. I loved the inclusion of Darkseid and Desard and Granny Goodness and the entire apocalypse side of things.
Actually, I have a question, Omer, because I just want to because you're a comic buff as well. Just on the side, like Granny Goodness was always allied with Darkseid. I mean, technically, Granny Goodness belongs to the new Genesis, right? As compared to Apocalypse. I mean, I could be wrong. I just a generated question from
Okay,
that.
so as far as my comic book knowledge goes, I think the answer is yes. It's always been sided with Darkseid, right? Obviously, there are gaps in my knowledge that if anybody else has the information, they can fill
Well,
that
there
gap.
was a whole Young Justice
Leave in
episode
the
about
comments.
it, where Granny Goodness was telling about the entire journey that she was with, Darkseid from start till the end.
Oh, okay, makes
There you
sense.
go. Right. So back to that. A lot of stuff there. Again, like a lot of things that you guys said, seeing Superman catch up with the Flash, it's just goosebumps. It was goosebumps when we saw it the first time. It was goosebumps when we saw it this time as well. Uh, Watching again, like seeing a lot of things in this movie were great. I had a lot more pros in my head as we were planning on discussing, but you guys have covered a lot of them. Uh, Obviously, if I think of more pros while I'm discussing the cons, I'll bring them up too. But let me discuss some of the things that I didn't like about this movie, and we can use that as a segue into the discussion.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So one thing that I didn't like about this movie was definitely um, that if this movie wasn't on HBO Max, it wouldn't have been as successful as it is.
On
Because
that, I agree. I agree on that one. I definitely agree on that one. Yes.
TK, because it's a 4-hour movie, and let's be honest, a lot of us aren't going to be sitting in a cinema chair for 4 hours.
I agree.
Right? That chapter division helps, but obviously it helps for when you're sitting at home. It doesn't help when you're sitting in a cinema with about 300 other people. Right? 2017 was not ready to be sitting in a cinema for 4 hours. Maybe 2022 will be ready to sit in a cinema for 4 hours after this 2 years of lockdown. But
I guess so.
2000,
I guess so.
2017 was definitely not ready. 2017 was struggling with the 2-hour runtime of Justice League. That being said, that is actually one of the things that the 4-hour runtime is what hurt it for me, because when you think about the movie having had to have come out in 2017, Zack Snyder's initial vision, no matter what, it wouldn't have been translated to screen well, right? So we saw that with BVS. Having BVS lose 30 to 40 minutes of footage and be on cinema didn't have as good a reception as, say, the Ultimate Cut did, even though those 30 minutes, in my opinion, didn't do much, but a lot of people, it resonated with a lot of people. So I can't cast that aside. Okay, so having to lose an hour and a half of footage just to make it viable for the cinema in 2017 would have hurt this movie anyway, right? And yet, there are lots of places where you can lose footage in this movie. I won't deny that. I mean, let's talk about that choir scene when Aquaman went into the ocean. That
was weird. I didn't understand. At first, I thought maybe. I tried to look back on TV tropes on that, but there was no explanation. At first, I thought because it's Scandinavia, right? So, and plus I saw some of the Nordic runes over there. So probably it could be a hymn to the Norse god Njord, who they might be just mistaking Aquaman with. But there was nothing like that. I mean, it was just, I don't know. I didn't understand that scene at all.
See, that's the thing. See, like, I can give you an explanation for that scene in a bit, right? But that's one of the things that, one of the things that didn't sit well with me, because, like, that was like a minute and a half that you just didn't need in this movie, right? So there was that. I feel like this is more critique of WB than it is of Zack, but it's like, I feel like we needed an Aquaman movie before we jumped into this. I would have been more than happy to see this entire movie focusing entirely on Cyborg and not have this attention taken away from Cyborg and focus on Aquaman and Flash, just to give them some kind of intro into this film. Right? I feel like we would have saved some time on the 4-hour length as well if we had, and we would have had a more cohesive movie without all these distractions from jumping from, say, Cyborg to Aquaman story, and then from Aquaman story to Batman, then from Batman to the Flash. So, like, instead of hopping from one person to another all the time, we could have had a cohesive story where Flash and Aquaman are already established, and we're just trying to get them in to this group, while Cyborg is the main focus of the story, while we're trying to understand his abilities, because he is derived from the Mother Box, and that makes him more of a focus in this movie, right?
I agree. And just to add to your point, Matt, because initially, from what I heard, when BVS had BVS technically didn't bomb. I mean, it was still a success. You got like $8 to $900 million of revenue. So I think that's a success. Of course, you're just $100 shy of $1 billion. So apparently, what I searched and what I got to know from Reddit and other his storyboard artist. I'm forgetting the name right now, but what he said that Zack initially wanted, after BVS, we got Wonder Woman, and Zack had told Warner Brothers that, yeah, once you have Wonder Woman, then let's go with Aquaman, then Flash, and then Justice League comes. But of course, at that time, Kevin Sajihara, he really wanted to one-up Marvel. He was like, yeah, I want an MCU right now. and he told Zack that no, we can't do that. Make the Justice League right now. So Zack sort of worked with whatever he had at that time. So yeah, I agree with you. It's more of a critique to WB for pushing Zack into it. Then of course he as a creator has to go into it like, okay, I got three people who I have to give the stories of. So how can I do it in the given time limit that I have? So on that one, I agree with you. It's more of a critique to WB for pushing him into it when initially his slate was more individual movies.
I'm low-key glad you guys are pretty receptive to my cons so far, so I'm hoping that trend stays. Right.
Notice that I'm very silent right now.
Okay, so this one,
He's gonna deal with Ahmed later.
I'm pretty sure Amar agrees with me right now as well, for the most part.
For the most part, I agree
for the
with
most
you,
part,
but
they are reasonable.
they're reasonable. They're not major,
Right,
but they're
okay.
reasonable.
Right, so here's one that's a bit controversial and one that I'm open for discussion after I'm done talking about my cons. Zack Snyder, this is more of a critique of Zack Snyder's storytelling, right? Though I won't deny that Justice League was a great watch. I enjoyed watching it, but personally, I feel like there are a lot of parallels. Like even Amar pointed it out, there are a lot of parallels between this and Watchmen. The storytelling, the style of telling that story is very similar, right? It's more character driven, and you focus on individual people and how they're progressing in this scenario, right? So he did the same thing with BVS, right? And he's doing the same thing with Justice League. So Mike, the critique here is that okay, we saw it with it worked with Watchmen because that was a scenario where we didn't know these people at all, right? And it's the scenario of that story, the entire purpose of that story was a society that was built upon where heroes existed, and now they have to like rebuild themselves up in this universe where some people are god, some people are man, right? There are parallels between that story and Justice League, but I feel like that we could have had a different take on it for Justice League, right? Yes, we have some people who are gods, like as in Superman. We have some people that are just man, as in Batman. But it's just that we don't need to be more character driven all the time with these people, especially because their scenario is different than what was the scenario for the people in Watchmen, right? And I feel like Zach is kind of stuck in that bubble where Watchmen was like this big phenomenon when it came out, and Zach is just like, okay, this worked, and I feel like this is my style, and I want to use this style as much as I can, right? And for the most part, like with Watchmen, it worked because Watchmen was this, this was this lore-based story where you're just focusing on people reacting to society, but that wasn't the case in Justice League. Justice League was more focused on threat and how to handle that threat. But we didn't see a lot of that. We saw more of preparing for that threat instead of handling the threat. Like the only time we saw them handling the threat was the last part of the entire movie, the sixth part. And the rest of it was more focused on character development and everything. Though I don't mind the character development, I feel like Zach, your storytelling can improve. You don't have to be stuck in that Watchmen bubble, right? You can expand, right? You could have handled that Atlantean Amazonian war thing a little better. Maybe when Aquaman made his first appearance, maybe Diana didn't like it. Maybe Diana tried to attack him a bit, something like that. Something that spoke to that core character, that internal relationship between the characters, instead of developing them separately. That's something that I feel that could have been different. Obviously, when we go into the discussion of it, you guys can tell me your thoughts on that. I'm very open to hearing it and being proven wrong on that. Take it. Now, I think the two biggest critiques are next. I was excited for this movie because as you all know, I'm a big fan of comic books, and whether it's DC or Marvel, I quite frankly don't care. It's a comic book movie. I'm going to watch it. My problem is, okay, when I went in, I was expecting so much, right? And I got a lot of good stuff. I'm not going to deny that. I got a lot of good stuff. My problems were that one, Zach claiming 10% of footage was used is very wrong. I went back and checked. At least 55 to 60 minutes of footage was used in the original Justice League. right? Roughly 50-55 minutes. Okay? So that is at least 25% of the movie that was used in the original Justice League. Okay? Of this whole movie. Okay? So only saying that the theatrical cut only used 10% of footage is just, maybe marketing or whatever, but that was something that I had fault with. Okay? Despite that, my major concern was that we didn't see anything new. And by that, I mean, Zach had told us everything, right? Because over the last 3 years, since people have been campaigning about release the Snyder Cut, there are a lot of things that he told us over the last 3 years. He told us about Darkseid's involvement. He told us about Martian Manhunter. He even gave us the storyboard drawings for that scene. He told us that the Green Lanterns, that in an alternate endings, Kilowog was there to warn Batman instead of Martian Manhunter. And in this version, there was Martian Manhunter, and like he told us a lot of these things that were in this movie. He even told us, there was a scene where we see Cyborg exploring his past and everything like that, and he's walking through this virtual world and everything like that. Like he's told us all of this stuff over the last 3 years since the campaign has been going on. So when this movie came out, there was this expectation, okay, what he's given us is a glimpse, and that we're going to see some more surprises in this movie. And the only surprise we saw in this movie was that nightmare scene that he filmed specifically for this release.
Well, that, and of course, I kind of half agree there, but I'll come to that point once we go into the discussion.
Right.
But I do half agree with, not even half agree, but a bit more than half agree with you on that.
Right. So like that was something that I had a problem with, because a lot of things that we knew, right, we went into. Obviously, there were some, apparently, I went back into 2017 interviews to prepare for this, to make sure that the points I'm making weren't biased. I went back into some interviews that he did in 2017, 18, and 19 about the Snyder Cut. And he said, when he talked about some of the scenes that were cut, he even mentioned that the scene in which Batman is putting where Batman takes off his under armor and his bruised back was actually a part of the movie. But we didn't get that in this cut either. The one from the Justice League where he's in that room and Diana comes in, takes care of him. Mm-hmm. Right? I can share a link with you guys afterwards.
We remember.
We remember.
No, because I do recall. I remember the scene, but I do recall like some fan was asking when did Wonder Woman appear in a cape? Because Diana was wearing like a red sash or cape, and Zack Snyder was like, "What?" Because you got to realize Zack Snyder hasn't seen the Justice League. Christopher Nolan and his wife Deborah Snyder, they both saw it, and they told Zack that okay, it's just 10% of the movie that has been used, and you better not see it. So it's kind of like Zack has just gone on to their words, like, okay, it must be 10%.
I mean,
he hasn't seen it.
Obviously,
it could be that.
Obviously, I'm ready to accept that he hasn't seen this movie, right? I mean, it's fair, right? It was one of his greatest works that. And I mean, when I say air quotes, I don't mean it as a joke, right? I don't mean that like as a mocking thing. Genuinely.
No, of course. You are a sweet person. You should know that.
Has an expression that Superman had, but when Steppenwolf hit him with the axe and he was like not impressed.
Not impressed.
No, but
Amar is like, now there can be only one of us. We have the same face.
No.
Survival. For the
fittest. I think there can be only one twin at this point.
No. I'm just waiting for discussion. I'm just waiting for discussion.
All right, sorry, we digressed.
Sure. Yeah. So he may not have seen the movie, right? But the point being that he did tell us a lot of stuff that were in this movie, and during interviews he mentioned that there was the scene where Batman and Diana have a discussion after Superman flies away with Lois, right? So that scene wasn't in this movie. Now, it could have been a misquote in the article. I'm ready to accept that too, right? But there's obviously that some of the stuff that he's told us we didn't see a lot of new things, right? Like some clips already, some new clips, some things he's told us are going to be in this movie, and now that's the final. Now, my final gripe, the nightmare scene that he filmed specifically. Let's remember this. He filmed it specifically for this release. It wasn't part of his initial Snyder Cut. Okay? He recast Amber Heard again, and that didn't sit well with me. despite everything that was going on, he chose to recast Amber Heard. And it's not a decision that I take lightly because of everything that's going on with Amber Heard. I mean, my rating would be a point higher if it wasn't for Amber Heard. I genuinely enjoyed this movie, and because of my bias against Amber Heard, surprisingly, and you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of Zach, but my bias against Amber Heard made me dock a full point. His
You know what?
decision.
I would actually go. I would actually agree with that. I don't have any counterpoints to that.
Yeah.
The thing is, of course, the nightmare scene. Agreed. It was that one was filmed. The one with Jared Leto's Joker was definitely added like later. And of course, at first I thought that maybe Mira was part of like a similar scene, but of course that particular scene was reshot. But yeah, I do agree on that gripe. Like it's again, you might argue that it's to keep the continuity, whatnot, or whatever his future
Okay,
vision was. But I do agree with that with that one.
let me just build upon this really slightly, like just a real quick build upon, then we'll go into discussion because I've talked a lot. Um, so the reason that I have this gripe with Amber Heard is because throughout this movie, the CGI is just a little janky. Okay, which
It
is
is.
what one of my problems with Cyborg, because if you're going back and re-CGIing like $70 million just to fix the CGI of this movie, why is Cyborg still janky? Why is he still as janky as he was in the original? Okay,
True.
why is it that you could afford to kind of fix up Steppenwolf but keep Cyborg still like this slightly janky movement that he has when he walks? Okay, like his movement just doesn't sit with me. And during a lot of fight scenes, you can just tell, like especially in that Steppenwolf fight scene where Diana just kind of does that jump over Steppenwolf, you can tell that it's a stunt double that has Diana's face superimposed on it. Like it's not very well done. My question is that if you could afford to do that, you could afford to fix up Steppenwolf, why couldn't you afford to superimpose somebody else into the Amber Heard role?
Yeah.
It
I
wouldn't
mean,
have been
I
that
would be
expensive.
all up for any other actress apart from Amber Heard to play
Ex-
Mira.
Exactly. I mean, it wouldn't have been that expensive to recast Amber Heard and make her record that 1 2 minute scene when she makes that talk with. It wasn't 2 minutes. Let's say 3.5 minutes, where she's
Three and a half minutes,
swimming,
yes.
like swimming around
I mean,
outside and talking
you could
to
have deep
Arthur.
faked Amelia Clark. I mean, you could have deep faked Amelia Clark over there, and it would have sold like hotcakes. Like Amelia
Exactly.
Clark is replacing Amber Heard.
I wouldn't
Hotcakes, I
Exactly.
mind.
would say.
I wouldn't mind Gina replacing Amber Heard.
And even if if we are thinking of that nightmare as a Elseworld sequence, it kind of matches up. Like if there's a different actress, it won't make a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
mean, from what I understand, this is just me guessing, of course. Like that particular scene was just there to serve as a cliffhanger. This was like Zack Snyder's, the whole reasoning that okay, fine, this thing is coming out. What do I have to lose? So he put that scene in there that okay, fans are gonna be like, yeah, we want more. We want to know what happened there. What made everybody's dead. Green Lanterns are dead. Darkseid's invaded. What happened there? So now the fans can give a push there. So
Yeah.
again, it could be because of continuity. Because of course, just to give Zach a little bit of leeway, because Amber Heard did get cast in Aquaman and she did have the full movie. So at this point, if he recast her for the Snyder Cut, it will have a lot of implications in terms of continuity. Like this is a completely new face now. I get it. It's unfair to Johnny Depp, honestly, on my according to like whatever is going on. It's unfair to Johnny Depp that she gets recast into a project that's being demanded like hotcakes. But I get it. Like Zach would have gone through the continuity side of things. Like, okay, this may disrupt the continuity. Although I do agree with Omer on this one. Like, there was no point in even including her in that nightmare scene.
Hmm.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so there goes one rating.
Yep.
There goes one rating.
So those are basically my points. And with those cons, obviously, I'm going to open up the discussion to the three of you who are big fans, and I'm hoping the other two will try to defend my points a bit. So let's open up the floor for discussion. So I'd like you to take the first bat, and then yeah, I'd like you to take the first bat.
All right. So since the discussion part is now over, let me first respond to Umair. And I think some of the points that Umair made make sense and we agree. And I was nodding along as he was speaking. And although he was surprised at us agreeing because we are the sensible fans, but when
Low blow, low blow.
Why the drive by? Why the drive by? What did I do to you?
I am so
But
sorry,
yeah,
it cracked me up.
some parts, some things that he said, we already said in our points, and some points make sense, but some things, I have to rebut. First things first, the Wonder, you said that, it was like mostly 50, 60 minutes of the scene. It may look like that, but it was different. Let me explain how. The Wonder Woman scene, the first the bank blast scene in Justice League, that was like very hardly 3 minutes, like 2 minutes 59 seconds. Because sadly enough, as my life is, I actually tried to watch Justice League after the Snyder to see some sort of some stuff. And I actually showed some to my wife, including the Themyscira scene in the final battle, and she said, "Why are you torturing?" So, going
He
on
said it
along
because
with
of the
that,
hours.
yeah, she said it because of the mother
Hours.
jokes and the I don't know. Yeah, the Wonder Woman scene was 3 minutes in the Justice League, while in the Snyder Cut it was 7.5 minutes. When the Wonder Woman scene ends in the Justice League, in the Snyder Cut, it's only reached to the point where Diana enters the room. So there's a lot of explanation. The scenes, even the scenes, the 3 minutes of the footage that was used in Justice League, as opposed to that 7 minutes footage that was used in Snyder Cut. I'm just repeating it again, sorry. But though even those shots were shot a little differently, especially the fight scene, the entry fight scene when she comes into the room. It may be the same in both, but it was shot differently. The powers that Wonder Woman was using in the Snyder Cut one were different as opposed to the ones in Justice League. She was taking out the villains differently. So even that way, it may seem the same shot footages, but it was different that way. It same applies to the Themyscira battle. It was vastly different as compared to the other and vastly longer as well. So it may seem there was like 50 60 minutes of footage, and I don't agree with the 10% thing. There was definitely more than 10%. That probably was a marketing thing, but there was even the things that were similar were shot differently. From what I saw, from the length that I could, bear Justice League, and that was like till Steppenwolf's entrance. And when I saw the word Steppenwolf, I was like, it's not worth it anymore. Even for the podcast, it's not worth it to watch it. Then again, in difference, like even in the same short scenes, the dialogues were different. One example being the you can point me to Atlantis joke, while actually in actuality he was speaking in their language. When Bruce says it to Aquaman, and he shoves him against the wall. In Justice League, it was like, can you point me to Atlantis? And he smirks, but in actuality, he was speaking in their language, and then he smashes him against the wall. So even that ways, there were differences even in the same shots. Maybe dialogue wise, maybe shot style wise, maybe angle wise, maybe effects wise, there were differences. So that's one of the major points that I wanted to talk about you saying that it was pretty much the same movie. Same with, as Kanza said, there it was pretty much the same movie. That was one of the things. Other than that, I think the nightmare scene, I agree with you. Everything else that I agree with you. One thing that I probably don't agree with what Kamza said and what Umair said. Uh, was probably like it was what you said that they had already talked about. Like Snyder already talked about majority of this movie, and he had given us away. I get that. I get that. But the point is, if he hadn't, would we even have Snyder Cut today? I mean, it was that hype that he built over the years that made this movement into something this which brought us this. I don't think that if he hadn't shown those things, the fans wouldn't have gotten so hyped up to the point that they would have forced the studio to release it. So I think, I mean, that's sure, it messes with your head that you know what's coming, like the Martian Manhunter scene. I had read it before. I knew it was coming. When Martha came out of the room, and even in the last trailer when her eyes got red, I got the idea that this is that scene, that this will be the Martian Hunter reveal, Manhunter reveal. But still, didn't watching it gave you goosebumps? It did for me. I mean, at least it for me, it worked. Although fine, he had to give those things away, but uh, I don't think that if he hadn't given them away, there would be a Snyder Cut today to talk about. So I think that's pretty much I'm going to counter. I'll hand over to Asad or Amar, whoever wants to take over.
Very well. Asad, you go ahead. I will bring in my points last.
So the point that I'm going to, because of course Suhaib already covered everything before this. The point that I had, well, with Kanza, she mentioned that Superman's personality had a whole changeover, which I can understand, of course, because in BVS you had this very brooding kind of Superman, which is understandable because the whole world is questioning him. In Justice League, of course, you have a more brighter Superman because that's what Zack's journey for his Superman has been all along. Like he starts from a path of discovery, goes all the way to become the classic Superman icon that he is. Of course, it's a journey that it takes him. So again, to Kanza's point, it's kind of like a person who got a second chance at life, and he's like, yeah, there are many good things out there in the world for me to experience. And I have a team who really wanted me back. So the whole dialogue with, I have a second chance at life. These people brought me back for a reason, and I need to know why. And then, of course, his whole inner monologue with Jonathan Kent and, of course, his father, Jor-El. The whole sequence when he's trying to find out, what's going on?
What?
Like I see Umair laughing. Umair is like literally like controlling his laughter like this. But yeah, no, the whole sequence with Jor-El, coming forward to get the suit and all. So I think it was that inner conversation that made him look a bit more optimistically. I mean, when he flies off in his black suit, it's kind of an inspirational moment that you see him and take flight, son. That moment gives you goosebumps. So the only thing that I would refute to is that point. Of course, he does have a personality change, but it's not for the wrong reasons, and it's not for just for movie purposes. He has had that journey. So yeah, Amar, you're next.
Oh, where do I begin? So much to say, so little time. Wait, we have a lot of time, don't we? Interesting. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I want to add to what Asad just said about Superman's flight as well as his new personality. Yes, he mentioned, like Asad said, he mentions that he has another chance of life and everything is going to go differently for him. So obviously he's want to take that opportunity for his for the chance he can. But I will point out one minor error that I personally had before I go into the positives, that they treated the black suit in his revival like it was some big reveal when we see it in Cyborg's flashback, aka Vision, before Barry does anything, which kind of ruins that little moment.
Yeah, that I agree with. I mean, it could have been the normal suit. It could have been the normal suit, but you do realize, no, this is the thing. You do realize that shot is taken from Man of Steel. Zack improvised that shot.
Yeah.
It's the same shot from Man of Steel. And if they had shown that, because that's the Man of Steel suit. So if they had shown the color suit, it would have been a dead giveaway that, yeah, it's the Man of Steel suit. So, yeah. I mean, it's clever, but again,
I would have preferred if they had a variation of his Injustice suit in that flashback, or maybe a Kingdom Come variant.
Oh man, it would have blown everybody. It would have blown everybody. If it was the Kingdom Come, it would have blown everybody to bits.
Exactly my
Literally.
point. Like, yeah, that would have been a more perfect thing for that Vision instead of the black suit. And also, I have no major problem with it, but if the black suit did not have a cape, it'd be just like the animated Superman Doomsday scene. But then again, a cape for Superman is very iconic, along with Batman. So moving along around from that, I want to mention Cyborg CGI a little bit. Yes, Cyborg CGI was not that good. I will be very honest. Like, half the time, I feel like it was an animatronic from a Terminator spinoff talking. So that is a gripe that I have. But his armor is much better than it was in the original. There are a lot of
plus, sorry, Amar, just to add to your point, you can use that. If you see, there's some similarity between Cyborg's armor and Steppenwolf's armor. If you look closely,
well,
there are a lot of similarities because again, we know the mother box is what brought Cyborg back to life, and the mother box is apocalyptic. So it could be just to keep that consistency between Cyborg and Steppenwolf. Like, that's why it looks a bit clanky, but it's kind of like consistency, if you will.
Yeah. And then there's that epic story of when Darkseid invaded Earth that added a lot of interesting features. But again, I don't remember who brought up this question. Who brought up this point? I forgot entirely. A lot has happened in between the podcast, but I don't know who brought this up. But yeah, it was a very good point. That the invasion of a planet that had the anti-life equation was Earth. How did Darkseid not know that?
I did. Actually, my friend did. So it was that actually. Yeah. It was one of my friends who brought that up. Like, does nobody keep Excel sheets in Apocalypse? Like, okay, we invaded Earth, we invaded Jupiter, we invaded Oa or whatnot. Are Excel files not a thing in Apocalypse? I guess.
I'm sure they have a different program for it.
No, don't get me started on that whole Steppenwolf 50,000 planets debt. So, okay, that's a different thing altogether. But now let's talk about some of the other positives. Okay, yes, I will agree on one thing, that there were a lot of extra quips compared to Joss-tice League, is what we're calling it in this podcast. I don't know why I did not say a T in that point. But one thing I will say is that a good chunk of it, if not all of it, I'm pretty sure just a good chunk of it, is in fact either is Barry or it is with an interaction with Barry. And the fact that Barry is built to be this kind of character, it is, for the most part, not entirely, fine. If it is just him trying to just adjust to the situation by being a jokester, then it makes perfect sense for the most part, because he's new to the game, he is nervous, he's clearly using humor to go past interacting with the real world, as we saw when he was trying to apply for the dog walker job. You could see that he has a bit of a nervousness to him. And that is what he is channeling, because everything is coming to him very fast. That, okay, yeah, you have superpowers, you already knew that for a while. Batman comes in, you find out Batman is Bruce Wayne, he is recruiting you. And there are other people just like you. There's an invasion coming to Earth. The invasion is being done by this interdimensional being. He is almost successful. And you're relatively new to all of this, and everybody's doing that whole disappearances. Everybody's learning some whole new techniques, and there's a person who's almost as new as you, Cyborg, and he is doing much better than you, and you are confused as to what you are doing wrong. So yeah, you're putting all of this together. You are going to see, okay, yeah, fine. Flash is learning to do a few things, but then I will bring up one more thing that Omer brought up in our discussions post watching Snyder Cut. That like he mentions that when he goes faster than the speed of light, he alters time. So the question is that naturally he would have to have broken the rule maybe once or twice beforehand, before to realize this rule. So the question is when, what. So
That's a very good point. That's a very good point because he does say, "Do not. You have to break the rule, Barry."
yeah,
And
you
that
have to break.
means that probably has he done this before, or has like maybe he's done this before, and the repercussions were so bad. He's like, "Yeah, no, not gonna go there."
Exactly. So I brought this up when we watched the movie the other day, and I didn't feel like it was a big enough point to bring here, but I'm glad Amar brought it up.
Because actually, as I mentioned, like, when you did mention this to me, I actually had a lot to say about that little point as well. Because again, he is relatively new. Obviously, this is not his like first week or anything. He's probably been doing this for a couple of months at best, right? At least a couple of months, or maybe a year at most.
Right? I mean,
So
if anything, the suit is an example because, of course, he would have to research a lot of things. Like, okay, if I run here, my suit is going to burn off.
Yeah,
and that's why if you see in his civilian clothes, he doesn't run much. Even like when he's going to save Iris, he's not running. He's just like trying to walk very, very slowly, like so that he doesn't burn off his clothes. Because already in his first reaction, he burned off his shoes. So of course he knew, oh shit, okay, I've got to go slow.
That was a really good scene.
Yeah, I agree. A little Days of Future Pasty, but with a nice little touch to it, in my personal opinion. Now, where was I talking about? Oh yeah, that. Okay, yeah. So I was saying, yeah, he's at most been doing this for a year because again, us had brought up the suit. Yes, he had to have done a lot of testing to have made that suit the way it is and to obtain the materials he needs to make that suit. So naturally, he's been doing this for a year at least. So again, one Easter egg I would like to say, his second favorite chair. What's his first? Maybe that God chair that gives him his abilities in the new God saga. But that's like a Easter egg.
It can't be the Mobius chair. It can't be that.
Sorry,
you're not talking about the.
Yeah. It can't be. It can't be. I'm just saying, if it was before or after, that doesn't really matter. I just like to think of it that way, and that's just a nice touch, in my opinion. Okay, so now enough about Flash, because I can talk about him for hours, because he has a lot of good points in Justice League alone. Back to Cyborg CGI and his build-up. He honestly had a lot of better build-up than he did in Justice League, apart from just existing. We got to see him become Cyborg. We got to see how it wound up being this way. We got to see what built his neglect for his father, which is really good. And it also explains why his father was suddenly out of the picture after the first 5 minutes. So
I mean, the whole hatred that you see, like you go like you're not doing the right thing, but we understand why you're doing that.
Okay, yeah. Also, I will retract my out of the picture in the first 5 minutes thing, because I just remembered, it just came back in my head as soon as I said it, that in the Joss-tice League, his dad was still there and he helps him understand his suit a little better towards the ending, before the 6 chairs scene, I think, sometime around that point. So his dad was still alive in the Joss-tice League. So
yeah, he was.
Yeah, but again, death was probably a little unnecessary in my opinion, but what built up to it and what it was for, yeah, fine, great. I actually liked that. It was smart. It was very good for Cyborg's character, and it helped progress the story a little better. So I actually liked that. So a lot of stuff was already been covered by Cyborg, and I will move on to the next one, which is, in this case, the last person I'm going to talk about, because he didn't have a movie before Justice League came out, and that was Aquaman. I will agree that Nordic thing was really weird. Very, very, very weird. I mean, if there was a nice little build to it, I mean, like, what I can say is that if it was like a build, because I think, in my mind, in my opinion, if it's most likely that they know that what Bruce was talking about naturally, right? So they praise him as some kind of, not a god, but some kind of savior that helps them during high tides, because during high tide is very difficult for ships to catch fish and get home safely. And it was shown in one scene that's what he does. That's how he helps them out. So
Yeah, probably they're just drawing parallels with the Norse god Njord, who is the god of the seas in Norse mythologies. So probably they think that it's him.
They either think it's him, or you think there's some sort of disciple or descendant of him that's actually around just to help out. So that's kind of like a praising him for one way of dealing with it. And I forgot the name of that character that Willem Dafoe played, but Volko, yeah. His addition was actually little decent. I actually will say that it was a nice touch to that in the Justice League, for the reason that in the original, we saw him just save Atlantis for virtually no reason, when he said that he had nothing to do with any of this. I like to think that that scene kind of added to him having some sympathy, some understanding, and especially the saving the ship scene. He started thinking about things a little more while he was doing all of that. So that made him that made him understand that, okay, fine, I hate you guys. I hate what you guys are doing, but I have to help you. Like,
agreed.
Yeah, that build up
is what he's even in that he's even in Cyborg's vision, because the Omega Beam actually incinerates him. I went back to watch that scene, and the Omega Beam is the one, because the moment Darkseid impales Arthur, and you see that there's a crown falling from Arthur, so probably this is the time where Arthur has claimed the throne of Atlantis. So you can see Volko trying to escape, and the Omega Beam is the one that gets him. So I was like, oh, snap.
So yeah, exactly. And that's all of these character buildups that actually added a nice touch to Justice League. Personally, yeah, Justice League is a better movie than the original. And there are still a lot of things. I'm pretty sure whatever arguments you guys come in, I might have one or two counter arguments. But I have a lot of things. Honestly, like I said, I have a lot of things to say, and I don't know how to organize it. So I need that information.
We'll probably be here for a long time if we were just to talk about
exactly. I just want to give one analogy. Like, if you compare Justice League to the Snydercut, Justice League is Harry Potter Half-Blood Prince the movie, and Snydercut is the Harry Potter Half-Blood Prince the book.
Oh yes, I mean, fair enough. That's fair. I mean, you compare it with any book of Harry Potter except for Deathly Hallows, because Deathly Hallows did give us like some.
I specifically said Half-Blood Prince because it was a bad movie.
That Asit, I agree with you. I agree with you, Suhaib, and Asit, about the Deathly Hallows. We'll have a separate conversation about that.
Oh yeah, another podcast.
Okay, so now we're done with the pros aspect of all three of us. Are we good?
We're gonna let Junaid and Kanza talk now, and then I'm gonna bring up one or two more points, and then we'll move to tier.
Perfect. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, so since we're having a long discussion and most of the points are already covered, I do have a few points. One of the points is that I like how Snyder made it a bit dark, not as in the dark as in bad blood and everything. It was dark in that sense too, but if you see the way the movie is shown, it's more dark, but in a good way, not like a Batman versus Superman way. And I liked that. It was more. I liked how they changed the opening scene, though. I'm glad they removed the cell phone message, whatever they did with the bad CGI of Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a big change, and that was a good change. I like how they did the change with the Steppenwolf outfit because trust me, he looked ugly in the Whedon cut. As you guys say, Justice League or whatever, I'm not going to say that because have respect for the guy a bit. Okay, I didn't like Mira. I've told you this before. I don't know why they brought her in the epilogue scene where the Joker was revealed, which made no sense. But okay, fine. Maybe he's building up for a Justice League 2 or something like that. Anyways, a person can dream, right? Uh, okay, I'm glad how Cyborg and Flash were given a big time and long time and a proper way to be in the movie because we've already seen Aquaman, we've already seen Wonder Woman. Who can forget Wonder Woman 84? Anyways, so we've already seen Batman's movies, we've already seen Man of Steel, and the only two persons which were missing were Flash and Cyborg to have movies. I get Flash has a TV show and we know a lot of it from the TV show, but Cyborg, given a story and given not taking a whole hour to show the story, the whole background, but a bit 15-20 minutes at least give him a proper story, and we know what he's feeling, and we know how he's feeling from the voice note which his father gave. After he listened, he regretted it, and that was true emotions. I get how you guys were talking about Flash being in the shoes and he was walking slow. Yes, that was detailed, and that was a normal eye won't catch these things, which you guys did, and that's a good thing. And I'm glad that Jack did it. Amber Heard, I can go on and on. I'm not going to talk about it. I wish they casted anyone. As I've talked, I don't know if it was in the recording or not. Mandalorian girl Gina or whatever her name is, she would have been a better cast. The only one more thing which I liked about this is they showed teamwork in this Justice League, rather than the Justice League which was known as the Justice League. The decisions were made as a team, not just Wonder Woman and Batman making it. The whole team was involved, which really showed that okay, this was a team building, and that Batman really did something to make these guys come together, which wouldn't have been able to do it. No other guy would have able to do it. I'm still not over the fact. I know we have a Superman fan here, but he comes in a raid and he's using his heat vision to destroy Batman in a way to destroy every other Justice League member. I get it. He stops when he sees Lewis, right? The point which was made in this conversation was okay. He found his love, which he mentioned in the previous film. That okay, he's his love of his life, and he couldn't do it even if he wanted to just cause a massacre. Even then, he shouldn't be like, okay, fine, she's the love of my life, I'll just grab her and go. He should have just left, got his head around for a minute or two, or maybe 10 minutes, and then should have come back for Lewis. That was just like rushed in a way scene, if I'm not wrong. Okay, other than that, now by introducing Darkseid, we know that we have a Steppenwolf backstory and we know why he's doing what he's doing. And we actually feel bad for him in a way because he has some reasons to do it. Even if it was Batman or any Justice League member, he would have done the same. Consider the fact that he was trying to make it up to a guy who he's been looking up to. Even if it was a Justice League member, he would have done it. So I wouldn't really blame. But some scenes were pushed, even though we know the scene with the Atlantis, the scene with the where Stephen Wolf comes first and takes the box. I forgot the name of the place. Even if they didn't increase the length of it, it would have been okay, I guess, because the chase was just overlapped for me because I'm not sure. I like how the Snyder Cut edition made the words like a rated R movie. Like they edited the word F. Like Cyborg says it, and then Batman says it a word or two. But I
And
mean,
not to mention the fact that Steppenwolf is literally playing Fruit Ninja with pretty much anybody he sees.
yes, I hated the fact thing with the music, whatever it is, the Wonder Woman thing. I mean, one time, two times it's fine, but every time it's just a joke. The only thing, the only good thing they took it out was it wasn't just Wonder Woman fighting fighting Steppenwolf at the end. It was Aquaman and Cyborg as well with her. It was Cyborg, right? If I'm not mistaken, yes, Cyborg. That was the scene which showed true like team membership and working instead of just having Wonder Woman just go, okay, I'm here, whatever you want to do, just do it. I mean, the guy just finished your race in a way, and you're just going against him alone. That's just stupidity. Again, this is not. I hated the fact they brought Leto. Jared. I mean, I don't know that guy. Even if he was going for a sequel, that shouldn't been at the end. That should have been at the start. Okay, that was a nightmare scene, right? So that should have been at the start, and at the end they could have said, "Okay, Batman should have gone to his members and said, okay, you know what? I had a nightmare, and I saw this to his team members." The scene where it ended, the wedding hall place thing, where he wanted to build a whole table and six
Yeah,
of
that
his
was the Wayne
own
Manor. Yeah, that was the
yeah,
Wayne Manor, which he wanted to transform into
yeah,
probably
yeah.
the Justice League quarter or something.
So
The
on
Hall of
that scene,
Justice.
Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
On that scene, it should have said, okay, before this scene, before all the Steppenwolf and all the parademons came, I had a dream and it showed me this stuff. So we have to be prepared. That should have been a better ending rather than kicking it at the end. As Omer said also before that maybe he just recorded it at the end. So because he didn't have anything else left with the people, which we didn't know that it was coming out, which as again Zach messed up in a way. I didn't go in watching the movie as a fan nor as a critic in a way because I just went it black minded. I didn't see all those things which you saw that Jack was releasing this, Jack was releasing that. I know that Zach has a movie coming out, and I just didn't open anything which was posted by Zach. So for me, the Martian Manhunter coming in the movie, it was just original. I didn't have an idea of it that he would come, he would not come. I wanted Shazam to be there for some reason. I don't know why.
Unfortunately, Shazam during that time, I think Shazam wasn't finalized. But a small hint of him would have been nice. I
Yeah, I
mean, I don't
mean,
know. Probably
because
in the
because
nightmare sequence, you have a murdered child right there,
even
and I don't know.
even even if
Or
you
in
don't
the
show the,
war thing, you have a younger current existing Shazam that fought in that war with Darkseid.
I
Or
mean,
probably just in
even
the background. It's like, you know how Granny Goodness was probably CGI, and I'm pretty sure nobody played her. She was
yeah,
just there CGI'd. So probably, I think in that way.
when they were showing Cyborg's story, the whole background of the story, they could have just showed one of his games and one of his fans as Shazam as a start of the thing, like as a start of okay, as a hint that okay, Shazam is still there somewhere. Because in the comic books, Shazam did really go to one of his games, one of his last games before his accident happened. So they could have showed one game ending, which they really showed that okay, he was celebrating after a victory of his
Yeah,
football team or football. I don't know, whatever it is. At this time, my mind is off.
rugby.
So yeah,
That's rugby, American
yeah,
soccer.
American football. Yes. So
Yeah.
they could have shown that. Zeus is a good introduction, but again, I'm confused with this gods and stuff in these movies because one end we are having MCU playing Thor and God of Thunder and this and that. Loki's there, and we have I don't know who else. But at the same end, DCU is showing Zeus, which is of the same origin. But again, that's North mythology or whatever it is. I know I said the word wrong, so just don't piss me.
Yeah, it's fine. You're adorable, Junaid. It's all right.
I know I said the word wrong. So
No, it's
I
a
think
mythology.
I
It's
think
fine.
yeah, I think that's from my end. We can just move it on to Panda.
And adding to one point that Junaid said about the teamwork, I think I agree with that. And to add to that, in the final fight, if you think about it, everyone had a part to play to make sure they won. Every one of them. Like none of them was useless in that fight. If you take out one of them, I think that fight would have changed. Flash was the reason, obviously, at the end of the day, that they were there, they were saved because he turned back time. Cyborg was the one who took out the unity. He had to be there to be and synchronize it. Superman, obviously, being the muscle, and he was the final push that separated the unity. Wonder Woman and Aquaman again being the muscles, and they had to keep Steppenwolf from taking on Cyborg, from disturbing Cyborg. Batman on perimeter duty, and he was doing that so well. So everybody had a part to play, and it was a very team effort that I want to add to the fact that what Junaid said, and I agree with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
on
Kanta,
that
you're
one.
up.
Yeah, Kanta, you're up.
Junaid, only if Junaid's done.
I
Are you
mean,
done, Junaid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in the scene where Cyborg sees that Wonder Woman and Aquaman are dead, that's what triggered him to work hard for it, to make the changes what is supposed to be done. And that was a small detail which made him like encouraged to do what he was there to do. Okay, Kanza, you're up.
I mean, like most of the things I could have said have been covered. But one thing I like a lot about Snyder's movies have been that he focuses on the smaller moments that people usually move on from when it comes to such movies. I mean, we could actually see Cyborg's and Victor's reaction to when his dad passed away. I mean, you could feel that him shattering through the screen. I mean, and when it came to what was happening on Amazon, you could actually feel the pain that the women were going through as the building collapsed into the ocean. I mean, like that was one of the things that I really loved about the movie, because these moments are things that people usually just go over and not talk about. Achha, we have so much more to focus on. We have all these fight scenes that we need to talk about. We have so many emotional moments to think about, but nobody thinks about the smaller moments that really bring out the personality in the person. And considering what they showed us about how Wonder Woman came across the arrow, what she went through, how she went to the place, she used the arrow to go under the building to find out what had happened, was something that I had been looking forward to, because I had heard about it that Acha, we're gonna get a deeper look under the building. We're gonna find out more about how she came across it and how she ended up going to Bruce and everybody to get them to come together. But another thing I was hoping for would be more of Aquaman coming to the realization that he needed to help Batman he needed to help Batman to fight the battle, instead of just being like, you know what, no,
I,
I'm not coming, and then just dunking into the water.
I mean, he's the same in the comic books, I believe. He's the same arrogant person in the comic book. So even in the animated series, so that's the basic Aquaman we know.
Yeah, I know this, but I was really hoping, okay, since they're already doing so much differently, why not give us at least a one line shot of somebody telling him, dude, pull yourself together, you need to help them. Especially considering I mean, he doesn't know a lot about what has happened because of how things were for him and what his situation was, which I understand. But something that would have led to us knowing, Acha, he changed his mind. Why did he change it? We have no idea. Besides this, I don't really know what to say since everything has been covered already.
So I guess we'll just move it to Omer then.
Prepared for this. Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, a lot of points and discussions have been brought up, positive stuff, which I'm glad, because all things said and done, Zach really pushed this hard, and I'm glad that we got to see it. Despite
It's a
my
labor of love.
it's a
It's a
labor of
labor
love.
of love.
Uh, Despite my grievances, I did like this movie a lot. And this is obviously a surprise to Sahib and Asad when I say this, because they are aware of my feelings towards Zack Snyder usually. Uh, but this was a good movie, and I think we should all talk about our grades for this movie once over
Yeah.
before I give a closing statement and wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I think I'll start us off, and then we'll go to the original talk order. I have a number rating for this movie. That number rating is sadly a 6 out of 10. And the only reason it's a 6 out of 10 is because I docked 1 point for Amber Heard, is would have been a 7.
Fair enough.
Take it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Um, Okay, obviously, those couple of things that didn't quite work for me. Even though it was a good movie, I wanted to give it an 8, but there's some things that I just couldn't get over. However, my grade for this movie on the tier list is an A.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Sahib, Omer, you have anything to add?
For me, like, I don't even need to say my grade. It's an S. For Snydercut.
I
I'm
will
going
not
to
be
do
taking
yes
further
joke this time.
questions.
This is the end of my sentence.
Dude, what's your number grade?
Number grade, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, then, Junaid.
Okay, so the tier list grade, I will give it an A, and I will move the Whedon one to a B because I gave it an A before.
We didn't
So
do
you
a B?
You did
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you missed the episode,
so
right?
yes.
You did what?
He wasn't in the episode.
How do you give that movie an A?
You will see the explanation.
Oh, these two were not in the
I
episode.
am actually
Oh
no,
my
no, no, no,
God,
no. I am
dude.
actually gonna take my car. It's 12 hours to Saudi Arabia from Dubai. I'm actually gonna make that road trip just to punch you. How dare you do?
You will
Punch
find
him
it in
from
that
me as
episode.
well.
Don't
Okay,
worry.
so
Don't worry. Despite that, it still ended up on a C.
yeah, so
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God.
I gave this movie an A because of Amber Heard, and in the number rating, I will probably give it a 7 because I would have given it an 8, but crossed one off, so it's a 7, and that's it from my end. Asad, you can give your grades.
Well, I mean, I put my review up on my Facebook as well. I mean, I said it's a 9 out of 10. Of course, there were quips. There were a few things I didn't agree with, but for me, the reason why it's a 9 out of 10 is because Snyder's movies are really good to go back to. The more you look at it, the more things jump out at you. Like, for example, I forgot to mention about those few cameos that were there. Ryan Choi, who is, we all know, the Atom. The person who was next to Gordon, Christmas Allen, and if everybody knows, that's Spectre. That person, once he dies, he goes on to become Spectre. I know James Corrigan has more mentioned. Thanks for updating my info, Sohaib. But Christmas Allen also goes on to become Spectre. And of course, third is more of a joke, but again, it's not without reasoning. Hermes, who was definitely there in the historical battle, collecting everybody's soul and just giving them to Hades or something. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for that. And on the tier listing, it's definitely an S rank for me, at least.
My grading was a little more complex in terms of numbers. It's somewhere between like a 3 decimal point high 7. So if you round it up, it's actually more of an 8. It's like a very soft 8. So yeah, and in terms of grading, I would actually give it an A. Ganza?
I mean, grading wise, it's an A because I mean there was still a lot of good stuff in the movie, and number wise, probably a 6. It would have been more, but Amber Heard is.
So the majority right now stands at there are 4 A's because Mubarak also gave it an A. So that's 4 A's, 2 S's, and a B. So this lands in the A. And
with our sixth average grade numbers, are the overall grading of Zack Snyder's Justice League or Snydercut is a 7.4 out of 10 in this podcast.
That's pretty decent in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I'd like to close.
One question just before America closes.
Sure.
If you are given the chance to change your grade, Junaid already did, for Justice League now. Asad and I already have given it a D. Okay. Umair and Ammar, will you change it from a C to a D or not? Just one question.
Okay, so my opinion, I might have changed it if Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey didn't exist.
I agree.
Those movies don't exist.
Okay, since we're talking about Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad, I think Asad should look at my grade as well.
Okay.
You
I
really,
said give-
you
I said
really
give
want
that
me
a
to
B
come
as
over
well.
there.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Junaid really wants me to come to Saudi Arabia and just to punch him.
All right. So, on that note, I'm going to close off by giving a statement and then signing off. Barry Allen's second favorite chair is the one in his room. His first favorite chair is the one he sits in front of his dad in.
Oh. Ouch.
Oh damn.
Oh man,
God
I
damn.
forgive you for Mephisto.
It's
Okay.
always the same chair. It's always the same chair.
Yeah.
None of you hardcore DC fans picked up on that, huh?
Oh man, I did not sign up for these fields.
And on that note, Snyder, you beauty. Despite my grievances, you put up a very good film. And I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of love from us and best of luck. And hopefully we see a Snyderverse. But just my opinion, don't make Lois and Superman's son Batman, please. I beg you.
Oh please no.
Oh,
No,
please.
No, please not. Please
Okay.
no.
Please no.
Okay.
But we'll get on that
note,
later.
On that note, it's time to close this dhaba. I guess we'll serve tea another time. See you guys later. Good night.
And if
Take
you
care.
guys
Good
if you
night.
guys stuck around, just a little longer, there's a little surprise for you guys at the end of this video. So bye-bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Hey, it's me, Mubarak. And well, looks like I've lost that bet with Sohaib. So here it is. Baby Shark, I'm gonna sing and dance to it. I might get this wrong a little bit. I don't even know all the words. But let's go. Baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark. Mommy shark doo 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 doo, mommy shark doo 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 doo, mommy shark doo 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 doo, mommy shark. Daddy shark doo 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 doo, daddy shark doo 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 doo, daddy shark doo 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 doo, daddy shark. Grandma shark doo 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 doo, grandma shark doo 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 doo, grandma shark doo 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 doo, grandma shark. Grandpa shark doo 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 doo, grandpa shark doo 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 doo, grandpa shark doo 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 doo, jump. Let's go hunt doo 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 doo, let's go hunt doo 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 doo, let's go hunt doo 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 doo, let's go hunt. And that's it. I am not going anymore. I am not going any more further. This was it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the Snyder Cut.